the stage next. I'm really excited. She is a Chicago-based writer and editor, and she's pretty fond of reality TV shows. In fact, if she's watching American Ninja Warriors, she probably cries a minimum of 4 times. But enough about her. Let's talk about you.
What's up, martyrs? It's good to be back. The 1996 Tony Award-winning play, The Last Night of Ballyhoo, opens on an idyllic scene of a well-to-do Southern family decorating the Christmas tree in their living room, the daughter gleefully singing the first Noel in an affected drawl. She prepares to put the star on the tree and is stopped by her parents and aunt, for you see, Jewish Christmas trees don't have stars. I always had this slight sense that Christmas was something that was off limits for me. Hanukkah was a minor holiday, a hanger-on with an inflated sense of self due to its proximity to Christmas. If Passover is Van Halen, then Hanukkah is not Van Halen with Sammy Hagar, Van Halen with like the other frontman, the other guy. I identified though with the family in The Last Night of Ballyhoo because I too grew up in a Jewish family that loves Christmas. My dual holiday celebrating aunt and uncle included my brother and I in tree decorating. At the end of Christmas Eve dinner, our parents would pile our sleepy selves into the back seat of the car and drive to Saguenash to look at the lights. My grandmother, a synagogue cantor, led the Christmas Eve caroling at her Florida condo every year until she passed. And she even knew all the words to Good King Wenceslas. No stopping at Rudolph or Silent Night for Grandma Alma. She knew the deep cuts. And then I met my wife and her Southside Irish Catholic family, and I no longer had to hide my giddy enthusiasm about Christmas. I'd get invited to pick out a tree with them and feel the cold Southern Michigan air lap in my face, and I had hoped my knowledge of deep cut hymns might impress her parents. How many, Jewish kids from the North Shore know "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing"? My wife does not half-ass things. I tell her it's her Capricorn nature, but she says that astrology is nonsense, which is exactly what a Capricorn would say. If she makes any kind of significant purchase, she spends hours pouring through product reviews on Amazon and Sweet Home and The Wirecutter and Consumer Reports. She is the only millennial I know with a subscription to Consumer Reports. I texted her the morning our favorite soccer team's home schedule a few years ago was released, and by the time I got back from my lunch break, I had a spreadsheet with a meticulously organized color-coded themed tailgate schedule in my inbox. So naturally, for our first Christmas together as marrieds, Una insisted that we would have a real tree. Guests for holiday dinners would marvel at our immaculate decorating. We bought ornaments and decor with great thought as to what ornaments would tell our story as a couple. We even found an ornament that is just a mini flannel shirt. Passersby on Pulaski would be entranced by its warming glow from our second floor window. It would all be like a Thomas Kincaid scene, but gayer. This, in theory, was a great idea. We strolled around the lot by our apartment until we found our perfect tree. A 7.5-foot Fraser fir with ample sturdy branches. With the help of the nice man running the lot, we affixed it to the roof of her ancient Honda Civic and headed home. Of course, the thing we learned very quickly about being in possession of a 7.5-foot real Christmas tree is once you leave the lot, you're on your own with the whole getting it up the stairs and getting it inside and getting it downstairs and back outside thing. Here is a step-by-step breakdown of what happens when my wife and I try to move literally anything that is a two-person job, including a Christmas tree. 1, we come up with a game plan. 2, we follow 0 of that game plan. 3, I lift with my back instead of my knees. 4, 4, she shouts sharp drill sergeant directions at me in an effort to be clear and efficient, and I am not very good at responding. 5, so instead I just yell pivot, pivot in a joking reference to that one episode of Friends with the couch, and watch the veins slowly rise to the surface of her neck. She drops the thing, reassesses, and we start over, but this time with more tension. She yells pivot, pivot at me, though not in a way that feels like it'll be resolved after the commercial break. Step 8, we somehow muddle through it, and step 9, repeat as needed. After lots of shouting and about 4 dozen attempts at aligning the stump in the stand, our floor soaking with water and sticky with sap, and covered with a festive dusting of pine needles, our tree was set and in the window. We were exhausted and slightly resentful, but hey, we've done it! We Christmased! I let her lead me through the delicate process of decorating the tree, her wrapping and rewrapping and wrapping and rewrapping and wrapping and rewrapping the lights a good 3 dozen times to make sure they were just right. It was no multi-story Sauganash monstrosity, but it was a beaut. So we have the tree, and it stands proudly in the window. We host family dinners throughout the month, serving beef tenderloin and Eanet garden realness, feeling that sweet hit of admiration every time they walked in and saw the tree and oohed and awed. What I came to understand from this experience is that Christmas is all about just getting people to admire all your stuff. And then finally, the second weekend in January, we resolved that the tree had to come down. We repeated steps 1 through 9, and then repeated steps 1 through 9 again, and my wife missed a step and sprained her foot. We left a trail of dry needles through the hallway, turning it into a chaotic opening scene from a crime procedural about cops who investigate tree kidnappings. We somehow managed to stuff the tree into the Civic through the trunk and drive it over to Portage Park just as the park was getting ready to close. And there it went, onto the pile of trees in similar states, left to sit in that empty Park District parking lot, joining its brethren in the afterlife that is becoming mulch. My first, and probably last, real Christmas tree, leaving me to wonder if participating in this celebration had been worth the shedding and the sap and my wife's injury. Next year, she said, we're getting a fake one. Thank you.